Good morning, Facebook. Here today looking at Psalms chapter 63, looking at verses 1 through 2. Now you see in Psalm 63, you see David's son Absalom. You see he's continuing his rebellion against his father as the king. But you see here the difference in Psalm 63. This whole situation, it's turned to a life-threatening status. You see, things have gotten so much greater. Things have gotten so much more severe and grim on the account of David. You see, at this point, David, he is now forced to flee his palace in Jerusalem, and he's got to go in the middle of nowhere. David doesn't know who he can trust. Many people who are close allies, maybe people who are his friends who were on his side, now they've sided with his son to usurp the throne from David. So there's very little people right now who are on David's side. So here's David forced to go out into this Judean wilderness. But you see, now he has nothing. Now where he once had a palace, now where he once had servants, now where he once had so much things, now the only thing that he has surrounding him is this desert sand and the desert sun beating down on him. But you see, as you look at verse 1, with all these many hard situations that are currently taking place in David's life, you see verse 1 describes that choice. That choice that we have to make. When things get rough, it's that make it or break it. What are we going to do? That fight or flight. How are we going to handle this situation? And what are we going to do? What's our response going to be about it? You see David's choice in verse 1. You see, he doesn't choose to look at everything else. He doesn't choose to look at his son out of anger, thinking everything that his son has done to his life. He doesn't choose to look at his life and how much he's lost. He doesn't choose to look at this hardship and how much it has bitterly affected his life. He doesn't choose to think about what he could possibly or even potentially do to gain everything back in his own strength. You see in verse 1, what it says is, he says, "Oh God, thou art my God." You see, the first thing that David does is fall on his knees, realizing he can't do nothing about this situation, realizing that his weakness is what will make God's strength known in his life. David realizes that the only thing that he can do that can have any influence in this situation whatsoever is to completely surrender it to God, because it is God who is in full control. And you see what he says in verse 2, the motive behind that choice. He remembers everything that God had done. He remembers all the times that he was in this same situation, and remembered how God's power, God's glory, and how God's peace reigned in his heart. Despite the hell that he was in, despite how hard and how unsolvable things might have seemed, God always made a way despite what we have thought. But as we start our day, can we keep our eyes on God and choose to follow him no matter how hard it might seem to us?